It's
Yeah.
really interesting that you mentioned the African village. So I met a guy recently, and we become buddies. And he was raised in the West, but he was born in Africa. And the way I think it worked, if I'm remembering the story correctly, is that his parents moved to the West for jobs, but it was in the culture at that time that they left him behind with the
Mm.
village and his grandmother in Africa until they could bring him over and knew that everything was safe, etc. And so he says he didn't really meet, like, to remember meeting his parents until he was like 5 or 6 years old or something like that. And he said like his first year adjustment was really tough because in the village in Africa he felt loved by everybody. Like all the
Right.
kids would play together. His grandmother was there, his aunts and uncles, other people. Like they were all around all the time. So when you go from that to more Western culture where it's just the parents and you're all in your home, and then maybe you have friends and you go out, like there's less community. That like
Yeah.
I can really see the difference in that. And it's and I guess South Africa is no because when I hear of Africa, I don't think of South Africa. You
I
know,
understand.
for whatever reason. So is South Africa similar to that culture?
Again, lots of that historically, but a lot of it also being lost. The urbanization
Right.
process has lost the village community feel of that. There's certainly in South Africa. I live in Cape Town, and the Cape Town community, the African community, there are Xhosa, or technically speaking, isiXhosa is the name of the community, and they don't really identify as Cape Town as being home. They go home is back there. It's up the coast in the Eastern Cape, where we have the family land and the family house, and if there's a wedding, it's there. If there's a funeral, it's there. That's where the village is, and then the corrosiveness of urbanization and economics, and calling people into really confined living spaces and in cities. It's interesting for me because the part of me is like, I don't really want to be bashing the way the world's gone. It's like, this is the way it's gone, and this
Right.
is some of the cost of it. And yet then there's a remembering, and there's a certain that's inherent in that story. We are circle people. In the story that you just shared of this young man who was raised on the continent of Africa whilst his parents were away, there's a certain wisdom that's still carried and still remembered, and I feel like it'll be held in the collective. I look, for example, at there's phenomenal community grief rituals that you can go and do in the Pacific Northwest, the west coast of America. And you can do that because a couple by the name of Sabonfu and Malidoma came over from Burkina Faso in West Africa, bringing the village rituals and rhythms over to the West. And they mentored and they taught people for many years. And there's a lineage of people carrying that work on in the West that just, I mean, would I like more of it? Yes. Do I have it in my life everywhere all the time? It's been a choice to immerse my world in places like that. It's like, this is normal for me to say, I need to attend to my grief. I'm going to go to a community grief ritual. And I know that that's a completely foreign concept for a lot of cultures because we do grief so differently in different ways and places.
Right.
But the village is alive. It's not completely gone. We might need to look for it. We need to be willing to cultivate it in our own way, in our own communities.
Right. Yeah, I see it a lot. So I have a lot of family on both sides in Italy, and my cousin was once telling me that they still teach the meaning of the piazza in schools, like why they have the piazza. It's not just something that happened. It's a way to pull each society, each little village together, so people can see each other, people can interact, and like there really is a benefit that even if they're going to still build modern cities in Italy, it's very likely they're going to continue to have these piazzas because it's a woven fabric of the community.